welcome back to my channel Suno Kahani. So today we are going to read chapter 14 of Lallan Sweets. So let's start. It felt like something had finally fallen into place. When he kissed me, I was convinced about what had until then been a nagging thought in my head. I had always loved him, from the very day that he had brought his grandfather's walking sticks to help me get home past the stray dogs, when I could see the fear in his shaking arms, the first time we got drenched under the water pipe in his veranda, all the times we took long walks or on the summer nights eating kulfis, or when we took a boat from Dima Lake towards the caves and stumbled upon what looked like a hippie party full of drugs. It was like coming home. Niku was a home and much better version it at that. Without the cattiness and politics of the Naja household. Every afternoon that we spent under the 2000-year-old tree spinning lattus, walking around in the Thursday Sabji Bazaar, taking in how magical it seemed with the sailor sitting in the middle of all the vegetables with their yellow lanterns and dark faces peering from behind, a place full of secrets. Our sequels of delight every time the electricity went out at night, which meant that we brought out our charpais into the veranda and Niku and I were allowed to hang out again. Despite being together the entire day, he even smelt like it, like Siaka's summer breeze, or when the rain fell on the mud of endless summer days and the stunning winter sun. He smelt like the excitement on a holy morning, and the 15th of August, which was spent entirely on the roof flying kites and yelling Aibu. The next day, all thoughts of the magic ingredient and the contest were wiped from my mind. I constantly forgot things and messed up my calculations with Bauji, and had to force myself to stare at the numbers on the bills to stop thinking about Niku and what being with him was like. As soon as I would get a break, my mind would immediately go back to thinking about being with him. I went to Bombay, Halwai thinking about Niku, and come back thinking about him. Suddenly, Delhi and its electricity electricities were lost on me as all I could think about was returning to our Pahargaj room as soon as possible, straight to Niku. It was not just me. I could see that Niku felt the same. He hardly thought of the kanchas anymore. He was always staring at me and imitating my laugh, the way I made a face instead of the banter. Now I would just laugh and he would kiss me. The moment I would leave his side is when he would wait for me to return. I clearly was not doing a good job of hiding my emotions when Bauji caught me smiling to myself while staring at the bills. He banged his hands against the table, shaking me. Well, I might as well show these bills to the idiot who is sweeping the floor over there, he said, chatistic. I grabbed the bills from my hand. Sorry, Bauji, I said, hesitantly picking them up. So sorry, I am paying full attention. You won't be find any mistake, God promise. He stared at me for a few seconds, his mustache flaring because of the angry way he exhaled, but then his face seemed to be relaxed. No mistake is good. Now, who is it? Who is what, Bauji? I asked, not looking at me. I know you are not married because you never mention your husband. So, who is the boy? Who is making you smile like that? I was about to deny his claim and instead insist that I was married. I wanted to say nothing distracted me from my work, and then there was no boy. I wanted to keep up with a lie. But another part of me wanted to tell him just to see his reaction. There is a boy, Bauji. Nikhil. Bauji grunted his response and took his time before speaking. And does your mother know? Yes, I think so, Bauji. He is any good? Can he add numbers like you? I laughed. He can't add numbers, but he can do other stuff. On the computer, he is very talented. He grunted once again, and this time I knew it was in approval. You can be different people and still love each other, he said, a wistful look in his eyes. There are idiots who say two people have to be the same to get married. All this chattis gunna and all. You just need to agree on the important things in life. Have a similar kind of attitude to dealing with the situation. But apart from that, you can be completely different. My wife doesn't like alcohol, but I love it. My son would buy me a bottle of expensive whiskey often. For 36 years, I hid my whiskeys from my wife, and for 36 years she pretended not to know. Yet she would leave a washed glass for me, sometimes even a bottle of soda. We have lived together all our lives. She knew I loved it, and I knew she hated it. For me, that is love. I could not do anything except to smile. I wanted to ask him more. I really did. But at the back of my head, I already knew I had my answer. I finished the rest of the day in a relative state of calm. It was only when I went back and found Niku playing Kancha with Preeti and Monty, and I was able to sit down, that I gave some more thought to it. Bauji was right, that was love. His words rang over and over again in my ear. It made me think about Sahil as well. I was sure that he was not the one for me based on what Bauji had said. I felt bad about being with Niku without telling Sahil. So did Niku. I could tell. At times he would suddenly ask if I wanted to call Sahil, but I knew there was no way we could talk about this on the phone. I was sure of my decision, of course, especially after hearing what Bauji said. I was sitting in our room going over all of this when Niku walked in. I looked at him and smiled. He nodded at me too, smiling. Niku, I think I have it, the answer. To Lalaji's question, whether they are happy or not, he asked, putting his arm around me as he settled on the bed. Yes, I said excitedly and turned to face him. He told me this story of how he hid whiskey from his wife all his life, but she always knew and never said anything and even put out a glass for him. Nico shrugged. Sounds like a classic marriage. You don't like something, but still put up with it. I had no reply to that, but I somehow knew that this would pass off as an answer. But would you like it if I hide something from you your entire life, but you still know it? He asked. Depends on what it is. If it's your stupid jokes and song, I would be so glad. Which song? दारू तनेजा मोती है उसकी नाक छोटी है. Kissing him was the only way to set him up. I reached the shop a few times early the next day and requested Bauji son to let me use the phone. He nodded with a sullen face. I had to dial twice until someone picked up. Auntie, we had a painful couple of minutes of small talk. I could sense her reluctance when she finally went to bring Lalaji to the phone. They are happy, I said immediately and quickly narrated why I thought so. Really? Lalaji murmured, more to himself than me. Never thought he was that fond of drink. No, Taru, I don't have anything against him. Remember that. She had a friend. Well, never mind. We will talk about this later. We split up on not the best terms, him and me. It was not supposed to be like this, you know. We were supposed to build a mithai empire. Now he has his own little kingdom in Delhi. I have mine in Siaka, but we could have been greater together. Well, why did you want to know if he was happy? I whispered as I saw Bauji enter the shop. Just curious. You always wonder, don't you, how people who part ways with you, and I knew how his shop was doing. I wanted to know if he was happy. You should have just asked him yourself. You could still have been friends. I heard the regret in his sign and could not help doing what I did next. I told him to hold and hurried to Bauji, an urgent look on my face, asking him to come to the phone. Bauji was extremely confused initially and refused to move until I literally begged him. Standing where I was, I saw his expression change from one of confusion and shock to revelation. Bauji looked at me finally, his eyebrows raised. For a second, I was really worried that he would yell at me, but then he gave the widest smile, one that made the bristles of his white mustache move. I felt safe enough to walk over and hear his side of the conversation. No, I know, Lallan. ना इरादे हमारे कम थे ना इरादे तुम्हारे कम थे. Both of us wanted the best. We throw the dice and then sometimes it falls how you want and sometimes it falls the other way. It was going much better than I had expected. I stood with my hands clutching my dupatta, too afraid to move away lest the conversation go downhill. And so now you send your granddaughter to spy on me? Classic Lallan trick, huh? I should have recognized it. Yes, you are right. I am out of practice. Well, truth be told, I don't mind keeping her. She is very good. In fact, I have a son. He is quite the eligible bachelor. What do you say? We join our shop now? After all these years? I should ask her, but wait. She she has a boyfriend. My eyes winded as I heard Bauji say this. For had I not assured Lalaji that Niku was not my boyfriend? I quickly shook my head at him, and Bauji, after exchanging a few more jokes, hung up. He made a gesture for me to follow him. He then sat on a chair, his arms folded across his chest. I knew you were not from Mathura, he said. I hung up my head in a sit. So you lied to us about so many things. But why lie about working here? So you could make me talk to Lallan. First, I thought about saying yes, letting him think that this whole thing was Lalaji's plan to get Bauchis to talk to him. But I decided to tell him the truth about looking for the magic ingredient and Lalaji wanting to know if he was happy. I did, however, leave out the part about his wife. This does make me feel a little uneasy, Bauji said, waving a newspaper as a fan. But since I know you are your crazy grandfather, I know it's not as strange as it sounds. He mentioned that when you were young, you were very lucky. You married the same girl who. Oh, yes, she was always with Kalauti, and we used to eye them together. Your grandfather didn't tell you, but Kalauti's girlfriend, they were always together before she disappeared. And then, of course, he married your grandmother. This was the interesting. I did have to ask him about the other thing though. But what about the magic ingredient? Do you know anything about it? He twirled his mustache, looking upwards. I really don't think we talked about any magic ingredient, except I would always say my wife was the magic ingredient. But that was just a joke. I really didn't think your Lalajis would make a clever marketing tactic out of it and use it for business. Let's think now. How many ingredients do those laddus of your have? Besan, ghee, sugar, all very basic, some dry fruits and other stuff on top. Maybe he adds a couple of drops of gulkand or something like that, but that's about it. Doesn't taste like the rose, I said. It would be very little. So I was just one of your tasks. But I still had a great time here. Baoji smiled and went to his desk, handing me some cash. You are good. I tried to refuse, but he would not hear of it. Finally, I hugged him goodbye and was out on the street again, rickshaws ringing their bells in my face. I walked to the other shop to check on Rohit and Mohit, only to find out that they had already left. They must have finished their task too. I stopped at a phone booth on the way back and phoned Lalaji again, first asking if Rohit and Mohit were done with their task. They were, those rascals. And what I do to next? He cryptically gave me an address in Chandigarh and said I would find out when I got there. I then usually threw a question about Krauti at him, but he said he could not hear me, coughing unnecessarily at this point, and handed the phone to my mother. Guilt took over me, making me feel terrible about not keeping in touch over the past few days, not too distracted by Niku. She continued our conversation as before, saying that Pappu uncle was always on the phone with his sons and that Lalaji would disappear for long periods of the time. She also told me that some of the kids had begun asking when the first tuition class would be. Soon, I think. We have already spent so many days on the road. I said, did Sile come by the house? Yes, a couple of times. He has got a new haircut. He also gave me a new cassette saying he had recorded those songs. This news only added to my street and guilt, and I promised to call her again soon. I wanted to tell Niku all this, but when I got back, he was not there. My mind weird. As I waited for him, Rohit and Mohit must already be off. I went outside to the corridor and heard some noises, a giggle, a door opened, and Niku excited from Preeti's room, nodding and greeting. What were you doing? I asked immediately. Just hanging out, he said. His nonchalance annoyed me. Niku, you know what she is? He shot at me an exasperated look and shook his head. Relax, Taru. We were all making plans to go for a party tonight. I would like to. I have never been to a nightclub in Delhi. I have heard they are the real things. You know, like where the big New Year parties happen, where stars come. I did. I interrupted him. I talked to Bauji and Lalaji, and this task is done. We are ready to leave for the next one. I was glad that he looked delighted. He gave me a hug that lifted me off the ground and instantly making me feel better. Let's go for this party now. I think one night is okay. I think so too, he said, nodding happily. What will we wear though? I asked him in a despair. They will never let me in like this. My dirty, overworn Janpat Salwar Kameez exposed to the street of the Chandni Chowk painted a sorry picture. I asked Preeti the same and she said, she will arrange clothes for us, Niku said. Oh wow, that's nice. So, have you just been busy playing kanchas or did you also find out about the ashram? He laughed and sat next to me. I did and found some interesting stuff. What's that? Well, in the late 50s, Swamiji, the main man at the ashram, took over this land in Siaka and the government didn't do much to stop him. There was some token fee, some bribes, and the land was his. Ever since, the ashram has expanded swiftly with zero tolerance for any kinds of protesters. Nobody walks on their land without their knowledge. There is an ashram where all these hippies works, a meditation center, some private complexes, some jungle, and a little lake of its own. But they also have something interesting here are the secret garden. Apparently, a lot of mysterious things are grown there. Like what? That was not mentioned. That's why it's mysterious. But what about inside the ashram? What happens there? What happens inside? The same thing that happens inside all the ashram. Hippies sing and dance, probably do some drugs, make it seem exotic to the rest of the world. What is their philosophy? How do you know not to know this already though? It was all over when we were young. Don't you remember? Sometimes those people would come to our school and tell us about the ashram, about what a wonderful place it is in the center of mind, body, and soul we find ourselves. It was something about the center, the basic center. Now that Niku had said it, it rang a bell, but it still didn't tell me a lot. I was going to say the same to him when there was a knock on the door. Hello, Ji, Preeti said with a wide smile, handing us a packet of clothes as Niku opened the door. See you outside in a half an hour. We went in an auto together, Niku, Preeti, Monty, Apu, and me. When I said we were like हम पाँच हैं संग, ये number one, ये number two, ये number three, number four, nobody laughed except Apu. But that could be because I suspected he had a little crush on me. I guess the TV show was too hip for their taste. Preeti wore a sparky silver gown and I wore a long black one with silver tassels. I had to admit I had never looked like that in my life, like a movie star. Preeti had spent some time putting makeup on my face. When I had looked into the mirror, it was like magic. I was a different person. Even Niku's mouth almost fell upon open when he saw me, but he contained himself at the last minute and stared rummaging, rummaging around for the room keys. The boys didn't look bad either. They wore smart half-sleeve shirts buttoned to the top with sunglasses pushed up to their heads. I had no doubt that we would gain entry to the clubs. I was sure they would not be able to guess that we had no money to spend inside, which is why we actually went to a much smaller place to drink first, where Preeti ordered Monty to buy beer for everyone. We can pay for our own beer, I offered, looking at Niku. Preeti held up a hand. This is just the first round, don't worry. Here it is, cheap. Only 10 rupees. Inside the club, 30, 40, 50 even. I nodded at her, obediently taking the beer she handed. How do you know all this? I asked her. It was fascinating to me. I could never expect to know so much about these kinds of things. I realized how little I knew of the things that didn't involve mithai or math. Practice, she said. A lot of men make big claims, take me to Gungru DJ's wheels, but then they go inside and realize they have no money to spend. So I say to them before we enter the club, but darling, I want to drink now. So we buy cheap alcohol. Cheers, guys. We clinked our bottles. Niku and I smiled at each other. I would be lying if I said my mouth didn't fell open at the sight of the hotel. I had never seen anything like it. We had been taken a taxi for the last 1 kilometer between the bar and the hotel because Preeti said an auto rickshaw would never be allowed inside. I could totally see why I would not have the nerve to go inside alone, and I was extremely glad for Preeti's presence. Even Niku seemed enthralled. It felt like we were about to enter a palace. The building itself was huge and had a strange shape. I tried to count the number of the floors but lost track each time, all lit up. From the outside, it felt forbidden. I could not believe I was there. We crossed the huge manicured gardens, the taxi stopping in front of a huge lobby that I could not stop staring at. It was something I had seen only in the movies. The security guard, looking regal in his jacket and hat, opened the car door for me. I smiled self-consciously, straightened up my dress, and looked for Niku, who got on the other side. The entire place had such a rich feel to it that I immediately wanted to run away. This was not for me. I was worried people would instantly to be able to tell that we were fake, that we drunk beer at a cheap bar and we were staying in a small town AC room in Paharganj. I felt like everyone knew that we came with the whole way in an auto rickshaw and just the last kilometer by taxi. I wondered how Preeti did it. She was smiling generously, walking in a way that I had seen her walk before. She held her shoulders high, looking confident. She must have noticed how queasy I looked, for she whispered to me, "Fake it till you make it." Niku held my hand as we followed Preeti. I admired the rich and orange marble floor and how our shoes made a noise against it. I was afraid of dirtying it. Outside the club was a huge crowd with three burly security guys looking ferociously at everyone, giving a slight bow to the people they thought belonged here. I tried to look casual and unimpressed, but didn't go do a great job of it as my mouth kept popping up open at the things I saw, the lengths of girls' dress, the way they did their hair, their expensive looking purse, the velvet ropes. 30 rupees each, Preeti said, putting her hand. What? 30 rupees entry, she repeated. Niku took out the money and Appu handed it over for the three of them. I didn't know there was an entry ticket, I said. It's not a ticket, Appu said. More like a fee. You have to pay to go in. Why? It's not the Taj Mahal. Yes, but if people could go in for free, anyone would go in and the crowd would be bad. And in Gunguru, crowd is everything. After some waiting at the door, we finally entered. It felt like the kind of club Sahil would describe to me. It was mostly dark and there was a huge disco floor with multicolored lights flashing beneath the floor. Waiters in white shirts and black bows swiftly carried drinks around. The music was deafening, yet I could hear people sing along as they danced. The girls there moved expertly and sexily, while the guys held drinks in their hands and danced. People were smoking everywhere. Soon we were pushed to a corner. The crowd was like Chandni Chowk. It was just that the people dressed and smelled better. I noticed that nobody sat down. Instead, everyone twirled and swung each other around. It was not a long before the combination of music, lights, and alcohol started hitting me, helping me relax. The club only played English songs, which were half remembered turns to for me. At some point, I heard with them, with Sahil, but it that inverted stare. I could not identify them. I took Nico's hand and started dancing, taken in by the atmosphere. It felt good. I was looking the best I ever had. I had paid money to enter this club and they had let me. Bloody hell, I was an adventure trip, so discover a magic ingredient. I deserve to be there. Oh, I know this one. I squealed to Nico. It's called Tiger's Eye. Eye on the tiger. He gave me a pat on the back as we battled our way through the crowd to head to the bar. All five of us were there, and Apu passed on a drink to me. It burned my throat as I gulped it. At that moment, I didn't want to think how much money we were spending. After all, it felt like it was worth it. We went back to the dance floor, and I recognized another song, Summer of '69. Although I didn't know the real lyrics. Some people climbed onto the tables and chairs, and I thought about doing the same. I turned to say this to Niku, but realized that he was not there. Another man came up to me and said something, but I could not hear him at all. So I just smiled and nodded as he pointed to his table. He seemed friendly, so I decided to follow him. There were other people at the table who welcomed me. I drank from the glass they offered, wondering where Niku was, hoping he would come over too. I danced with them for a bit before ducking away to find others. Now strangers in the club were beginning to seem familiar. They greeted me as if I was one of them, holding me by my side, giving me big smile. A man walked up to me and introduced himself, so I told him my name. Your name's Tara. Yeah, like the layer man is Bolo Tara Tara. He didn't understand my jokes, so I walked around till I found Niku laughing as Preeti leaned into him. When he saw me, he simply waved at me to come over. Preeti took out a cigarette and lighted as I glared at her. Where were you? He asked, putting an arm around me as I refused to take my eyes off Preeti, who blew smoke into my face. I felt a bitter sober after seeing them and refused when Niku offered me his drinks. Then they began to play Belly Sago, which lifted my mood. I jumped up as the beats of चुरा लिया है तुमने जो दिल को hit the floor. Everyone went mad. Niku took my hands and led me to the dance, cutting through the crowd. We danced for what seemed like forever. We finally stepped out for some air, and I don't remember how long we sat on the steps. Preeti and Niku sat with their heads close together. Inched I inched a bit closer and heard Niku say, yes, but that can't be right. Life is a lot more, and I want to experience all of it, not to be stuck in some small place. I want to settle in another country, I think. Haha, you would not mind it? Of course, who would? There is nothing here. This was certainly news to me. Suddenly, the reality of our situation come crashing down on me. This was Niku, the original version, always wanting to leave, run when things were going well, because he could not bear the settle down. I grabbed his hand and took him aside without saying anything. What are you saying? I asked him. What? He asked me, lighting another cigarette, annoying me in the process. He looked suspicious. Suddenly, his eyes were a little red too. You don't want to live here in India? I asked him. I actually meant Siaka but decided to start with India. Not if I get a chance to leave, he said casually. I stared at him. He had spoken like a little Like I didn't matter at all, as though I didn't face factor into the decision. Perhaps I had assumed too much too quickly. Why are you asking me about this here? Let's go back in. Why are you so friendly with Preeti suddenly? Niku held up his hands as if I was going to attack him. What? Taru, she's pretty as and has interesting stuff to say. There was something about his expression that brought on a strong sense of deja vu. He ran his hands through his hairs. What about Meenakshi? I asked him, remembering how he had behaved around her. He had never finished the story of his first crush. What? Did you sleep with her? He didn't answer. He was not outraged. That was answer enough. I turned away and caught my hand. He caught my hand. Tar, we were not then. It was before. How does it matter? I said icily. Because you would not be here if you had a choice anyway. Would you? I jerked his hand off and walked away from the stupid nightclub. What had seemed to so impressive a few hours earlier now looked fake and सुपरफिशियल. सो गाइस यहाँ पे हमारा चैप्टर 14 भी ख़त्म होता है. सो मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में. थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग एंड डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक शेयर एंड कमेंट योर फेवरेट बुक. डू कमेंट योर फेवरेट बुक बिकॉज आई एम वेटिंग. थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग.